Oh, for sure.
All
Thanks for
right, you're all set.
Jamie Scrimger, the Emergency Management Coordinator at Nokeeman Travel Council. Before I came to Nokeeman, I do have a background in the fire program with the Ministry of Natural Resources. So worked there for about 12 years. So certainly any questions you have about fire, even if it doesn't pertain to this presentation, please feel free to hit me up at the end. I'd love to talk about fire. If there's any excuse for it, I'd love to chat. So right now I'm in the city of Thunder Bay, so the traditional territory of Fort William First Nation, and working with the Nokeeman Travel Council. So I've been asked to talk about fire tips for the summer of 2024 fire season that we've already entered. I kind of want to touch on, there we go. Kind of want to talk about why now. So this is actually perfect timing because it is Emergency Preparedness Week for the province of Ontario. I actually think it might be nationally. So thank you so much for having me during this week. One of the things that I think we wanted to talk about was last year, there was some significant fires with certainly some resource issues. So the government of Canada has sort of advertised or announced that they are significantly worried about this fire season. In my opinion, hard to predict. We'll just see what the weather brings. We've certainly had a significant amount of rain in Thunder Bay in the past week and a half. So that's a good thing from a spring fire perspective. And then sort of why now is also because we're in fire season. So fire season for the Ministry of Natural Resources from a forest fire perspective in Ontario starts between April 1st to October 31st. So we're right in it at the moment. What I'd like to talk about today is sort of how to monitor the fire situation. So who are you going to call? Who are you going to contact? How can you inform yourself without maybe directly reaching out to the MNR? And then when you do need to reach out to the MNR fire program, how are we going to do that? So Fire Smart Resources. Fire Smart's a great mitigation strategy that's across Canada. So we're going to sort of touch on there. And there is a significant amount of funding that also goes with that programming. So and then forest fire suppression funding and training. And then of course questions, which I love questions. So I'm excited for that part. So I've kind of broken this down into provincial and national resources. So we do have the Ontario Forest Fire Info Map. So the fire program in Ontario puts out a significant amount of information onto their website. So this map, let's see if I can link it here. This is where we're hoping I will be able to. Sorry, one sec. Just gonna stop sharing the screen for a moment. Sorry. Here we go. Sorry, I guess I can't share it directly from the slideshow. So I'm just gonna go to the site and then bring you in. Screen. Okay. Here we are. Are you seeing that, Madison?
I'm seeing it. Yep, we're all good.
Okay, thank you. So this is the forest fire map from the AFFES. This is a fantastic resource. It gives you all of the information as soon as it's uploaded. So if you were, say myself as a crew leader in the fire program, I send all my information as I'm interacting with the fire to the fire program. And then this is a redacted version of it. So it's not going to say, you know, crew leader Jamie Scrimger said this, but it is going to give you a significant amount of at the moment information. So it goes through all of the fires for this year. You have this little sidebar here. We can have new, active, and out fires. So let's see if there's anything active right now. And at the moment, there are no active fires. So what we can do is go to the out. So we can still sort of play with this. These little flames here kind of give you an idea of where the fire was. They're pretty close from a geographic location. You can click on them. It'll give you the size of the fire, the district that the fire is in, the status of it. Obviously, this one's out, as they all are at the moment. If this was an active fire, it would tell you if it's what stage of control it's in. So if it's being held would be they've got a fire break around it. Usually in Ontario, that's hose. Out of control would be that they don't have that yet, they're working to get it there. So it gives you all of that information, when the fire started, how big, and how close it is to your communities is really helpful if you can put your community on this map from a geographical perspective. And then it gives you sort of the fire hazard. So blue is low, moderate. One of the things I did want to kind of look at is if you look here where the color stops is actually where the fire program's district stops. So if your community is anywhere in like this Ottawa, Peterborough, Oshawa area, it's a municipal response, not a provincial response. So a lot of the stuff I'm saying won't necessarily apply to your program from the provincial aspects. But as we get into funding, you can still access the funding for it. So we can talk about that as well if you have any questions. If you're curious about what fire management headquarters you're in, because this would be your main contact, you can click here. It gives you the fire management headquarters for those areas. And there should be one, right? Actually, you can see the district outline. So, sure. Now the map's kind of congested, but it gives you an idea of where you are from a location. So like Fort William First Nation, which is one of our communities, obviously falls within the Thunder Bay district. So if you move into somewhere, say the Kenora district, and you're from Wabaseemoong, you would fall within the Kenora district. So those would be the fire management headquarters you would contact if you have any concerns or, you need to collaborate or anything like that. So we're gonna leave this one, hopefully, and open up a different one here. Let's switch slides. So what they also do is the MNR puts out, they have their own website here. So this sort of gives you an up-to-date information as the fire season develops. So the fire program has split the region into the Northwest and the Northeast. And the only reason you need to know about that is who you're going to contact when you need information, right? So they have information officers assigned to each district. So if you need up-to-the-date immediate information, this is sort of the website you want to go to for contact numbers. So they do have the link to the interactive fire map that we were just on. But what they also have is down here, these are updated daily, the forest fire updates. So what they'll do is they'll list all the fires that have happened that day, or all the fires that are, if they have like a high priority fire where it's taking lots of crews, it's threatening municipalities or First Nations, they'll update it on here. So you'll have all the information you need to really monitor it. And the really good thing about it is this. So these are the information officers within the province. So if you're in the Northeast, so one of our communities, Pigmobird is in the Northeast region. So if they were really concerned about a fire, they would call Evan or Allison immediately. Call that person, it's a regional resource, but then they will contact the fire management headquarters and get you that information. The fire program is set up this way, so they don't have a lot of us calling the base itself because they get a little overwhelmed with the phone calls. Last year, actually, we had the Northeast region, one of the gentlemen in Wawa gave out his personal cell phone to one of our communities and it traveled quickly and that gentleman got a lot of calls. So he called me and asked me, he's like, can they stop calling my personal cell? And I'm like, I feel like this is a you problem, man. Like you gave out your cell. So this is sort of how they try and mitigate that. So these are the people that you want to go to for those information. And then as if that fire needs, they'll assign someone like this to one fire. And if that fire is threatening your community, they'll give you the contact information for that one particular information officer that's deployed to that fire. So really good resources here, goes through the year of what they've had so far. So far in Ontario, again, early on in the season, we've had 24 fires. At this time, they compare it to that year. They've had 7 fires would have been where we were at last year. And the 10-year average is 27. So both of these years were below average at the moment for this. And then what we can move into is the fire management offices. Madison, did it switch? Am I sharing? Okay, perfect. So these are your phone numbers. So once you figure out which fire management headquarters you're in, the district that you're in, this is the phone number to all their bases. This works really well. These are non-urgent numbers, whereas the information officer, you'll get a quicker response. But these are really good if you want to plan training with the fire management headquarters, or you need to collaborate with them, or you want them to come, do fire prevention at your community or anything like that. So these are the non-urgent numbers that you can interact with. And they're all sort of listed here. Great resource. I use it all the time, actually, because I annoy them after a while, but probably have them saved in my phone now. But it goes through all the fire management headquarters for you. And then they even have like the provincial ones. So these are the Sudbury Forest Fire Management Center, and the Dryden one are actually regional offices. So these are where your information officers are stationed. They sit at the Regional Emergency Operations Center and gather all that data. So they always have the best information and most up-to-date information to inform you with. So now that we've sort of done the provincial one, I did want to touch on the national, mostly because it's super interesting. So this is CIFC, the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Center. So this is really helpful when you're looking to see how we're doing in a national perspective and where resources are moving. Some of you might not be super interested in this. I mean, I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to this. So they have a similar map, but it's a national map, right? So right now we can see sort of that the West is having a significantly more active season than us at the moment. This is also really interesting to see what fire levels we're at. So our national preparedness level is a 1. It goes all the way up to 5. If Canada's in a 5, we start pulling resources in from an international perspective. So I'm sure you guys have heard of when we've had Mexican crews here, South African, Australian. So that's when we reach that 5. And what the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Center is saying is, we don't have the resources within Canada to respond to those fires. So we're going to pull in international aid. And we also deploy to other districts as well, or other countries as well. Australia is a big one because they have the exact opposite fire season as us, right? So when Ontario goes there, we'll go there in November, December, January, those dates. When they have a fire season, and obviously we don't need our crews here. So Australia will do the same thing for us in our summer months because it's their off season there. So just kind of wanted to touch on that. It might be a little much, but I just think it's interesting. So one of the things that we have that affects most of our communities from fires is it's not necessarily the fire, it's the smoke, right? So usually you're going to have your most vulnerable, particularly anyone who has asthma or COPD or anything like that from a lung perspective are going to be affected by that. So as emergency management coordinator, most of our evacuations are actually a result of smoke, not fire, right? Because there's just too much smoke in the community. We need to move our vulnerable folks to a different area where, they have clean air to breathe. There's also different mitigation strategies we can use, staying in your house, if you're driving in your vehicle, keeping your windows closed. There are air scrubbers that have been funded by ISC at times that we can put into elders' homes just to kind of clean that air and make it so they have like a nice place to go. So this map here is fantastic, and the fact that it has all the fires mapped on it. Again, it's not as up to date as say the AFF, like the Ontario map we showed you where they get the fires immediately. This one takes a little longer, and sometimes the fire has to be big enough that it actually puts off smoke that they'll track it with the satellite. So we can go up here to be in Alberta here. So this fire here, the smoke drift is going up to the north, and it would affect any communities in this vicinity. So it's really neat that you can see sort of a smoke prediction model to see what's going to affect your community. And I think we've all seen it, like over here, these ones are obviously putting out a significant amount more smoke, right? So they seem to be affecting, give it a second. I don't know what community that is. Canada? Sorry, I probably just brutalized that. But certainly this community would be feeling the effects of smoke, right? So it gives an idea of they need to evacuate, what mitigation strategies do they need to use. So it's a really fantastic map for that usage. So I'm going to try and go back to the PowerPoint. We're hoping here. Technology's not my thing. I'm more pumps and chainsaws. So another part I really wanted to talk about is the Fire Smart Canada program. So Fire Smart Canada is a national mitigation program across Canada. And one of the main things about this is ISC recognizes this as a mitigation program. So they do have a significant amount of funding that is identified through Fire Smart. Put the fire triangle in here. So oxygen, heat, fuel. One of the things that Fire Smart's trying to do is fire needs all those three things to burn. So the main thing that Fire Smart's ideals and practices do is remove fuel from that equation. So here's sort of an example of the home ignition zone. This is a big staple for Fire Smart. So basically what it's trying to do is remove fuel from near your homes. We saw this in like Fort McMurray and the studies that they did there about why certain houses survived the fire and why some didn't. And a lot of it is this immediate zone. So having wood right beside your fire, or right beside your fire, wood right beside your house. Your gutters aren't cleaned. You have somewhere that those little sparks and embers that fly can get onto your house and ignite that fire. Or having, you know, within this 1.5 to 10 meter zone, any sort of pine trees that are super ignitable or any sort of bushes, anything like that. So basically what Fire Smart's all about is mitigating the fuels, getting rid of them, removing them, and really making sure that your home, that fire is not going to travel through the community. So I just wanted to touch on that a bit because when we move to this next slide, we're really going to talk about where this funding is coming from, right? So my program as an emergency management coordinator is funded through the Emergency Management Assistance Program. This is a national program through ISC. It's broken down into a couple different sectors. So what they've done is they've had Fire Smart activities. So this is where we can get chainsaws, we can get fire pumps, weed whackers, wood chippers, all of this sort of stuff to perform that fuel mitigation that we were talking about, as well as respond to those fires, right? So we can apply for that, and then we can do non-structural mitigation, which would be stuff like the different training we do, so first aid, generators, those smoke scrubbers that we referred to earlier on, right? Now, what it doesn't fund is it doesn't fund vehicles. No vehicles. It doesn't fund structural fire, so that's a different pot. That's an infrastructure, and it won't fund things like we get flooded often. It would fund sandbags, but it wouldn't fund the structural mitigation, so like building dikes or berms or anything like that. The funding is through ISC, and it's divided into two sections. So what they've done is in emergency management, there's 4 pillars that the federal government respects in emergency management: prevention and mitigation, and then response and recovery. They sort of split the pillars. So the front end is prevention and mitigation. To get funding for this, what you're going to do is you're going to put a funding proposal in, and they're going to review it. You're going to have a back and forth with ISC, and then they're going to give you that money, and then you're going to perform the action. Now, who you interact with there is Rosemary. So you put your application into her, she helps you out, she's super helpful in that context, going through it with you and making sure that it's going to meet those parameters that it needs to meet. And then we do a little link in here that will have Madison send out as well to the website that gives you a lot of information on this program. Now, response and recovery works quite a bit differently. So response and recovery is, it's when an incident has occurred, right? So these would be evacuations, you're in the middle of a flood, you have had a fire that has damaged your community, or you need to respond to that fire. So the way that this one works is that you send an email to Marco, and he goes through your email and approves it through an email. You spend the money, you take that email, you print it out, you take that email, you take all your receipts with it, put it in a package back to him, and then he reimburses you. So the community has to put the money out first. This can be a bit of an issue, particularly because response and recovery are statistically the most expensive pillars that we have in emergency management. So, I mean, as I'm sure you've seen with the evacuations, those can cost a significant amount of money. So with the evacuations, they've partnered with the province where the host communities take a lot of that financial burden, but certainly there's still a significant amount of burden that does come to the community. So the response and recovery is a tricky one from a reporting aspect. And my suggestion would be to put a full-time financial person on this, right? Because you get people like me who are gonna run around responding and not really do my documentation properly. So this is a really big gap for First Nations where we're having trouble getting the money reimbursed for the money because the documentation isn't there. Yeah, I think that's about it on those ones. Oh, I guess that was quick. Questions, Madison? Oh, I
No
did have
problem.
sorry, there was one more thing I did want to show. I'm gonna stop sharing. I just wanted to show a funding proposal. I'm not sure. I'm sure folks on this call are significantly more versed in this than I am. So here we go. So this is an example. It's a redacted version of one, but it's the Emergency Management Assistance Program application. This would be the one that we were talking about that you fill out and you send to Rosie before you do the action. And I used my program, so this is my job description is in here. So we're gonna do our recipient information, what First Nation we're coming from, or tribal council in my case, who the emergency program coordinator lead is. Generally, that's me. They are going to ask you a significant amount of questions that you might need a little more input. If you're in finance, you might need someone who's in fire suppression or emergency management. So they're going to ask you what's been going on in the past 5 years. You have your plans. Are you trying to get this position to make those plans? Anything like that. Does it pertain to your emergency operations center? In this case, it would, because usually your emergency management coordinator would play a large role in either setting up your EOC or at least staffing it when you do have an incident. Project deliverables. So in here, maintain both wildfire protection plans, your HIRAs, so your hazard identification risk assessments, basically anything that goes into your emergency management program. This person's doing the documentation and doing that planning for you. So my position is the funding that ISC does give at the tribal council level is $155,000. And I've kind of broken it down how we break it down. I took out a few things because obviously it would change per community. But this is a 3-year proposal for it. So we have put this in, we're just waiting on approval for it. So $135,000 for the tribal council. If you were a community, what they've come out with is a community emergency management coordinator. So that would be one per community. They say that they're doing it they're evaluating those proposals based on risk. I haven't seen documentation, so honestly, I'm not really sure how that's being evaluated. But those positions are only funded $70,000. Some people have pushed back on that a bit, saying that that's not quite enough money for a position in the community. But right now, that is what ISC is approving for. So basically, be this application, very similar application, but what I've had our communities do when they fill them out is put the true cost of it. Right. So we've had 2 communities that have been successful in getting that position. But we've put the true cost just so ISC knows that, yeah, we're going to take the $70,000 in funding you're giving us. However, we're going to have to spend this much augmenting that position. Okay, now I think I'm done, Madison.
No problem, Jamie. Thank you. That was great. Does anyone have any questions? I will make sure that you're all able to unmute yourselves. And if you don't want to go on camera, you don't have to, just pop it in the chat. Any questions for Jamie? And like I said, I will make sure that everyone gets the resources and the slides in the contacts that Jamie's provided for us. So feel free, Jamie loves questions.
Sure, I'd rather have people talk with me than.
And if you don't have any questions right now, but you maybe think of something over the next day, week, whatever, you can email me. I sent out the Zoom link reminder this morning, so I will make sure Jamie gets those and we get those answers back to you. So last call, any questions? No? Okay. Thank you so much, Jamie. That was really, really informative. I personally love the visual of those maps and kind of the concept of the smoke being something that really you pay a lot of attention to, because we just sort of see it as an inconvenience, but you don't think about the implications of it. So thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. No, I love the maps. I follow them all summer. So
yeah, it's very interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah, thank you.
Definitely.
I think what a lot of people couldn't jump on, it's Monday, wasn't the greatest day. But what we will do is once we get it edited, maybe we can make sure everyone knows it's up on the website.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
be
Yes.
good.
We'll take care of editing that and we'll make sure it's loaded on the website and all the resources get to everyone who needs them. So thank you again, Jamie, so much. I will just do my quick spiel reminder for our upcoming webinars. So May 16th, we have Elena back for the last part of her taxation series on First Nation corporate taxes. And then May 23rd, we will have Richard White back for his final portion of the SAGE 300 year end audit prep. All of those are on our website as well. And thank you all for joining us on a Monday morning. It's not our usual spiel, but we're making it work, getting the information to you when you need it. So, okay, I think that we'll wrap it up then. Thank you so much again, Jamie. We enjoyed having you, and everybody have a great day.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.